Here.
My name's Marquette Crockett. I'm the Highlands of Roan Stewardship Director for the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy. And then when I moved here in 2014, I started working with SASRI. And the Highlands of Roan is an area in Mitchell and Avery County in North Carolina and Carter County in Tennessee. It's also sort of elevationally defined, so above 4,000 feet, and those are where the really specialized habitats are. So we do a lot of land protection and also a lot of stewardship work.
Right. Right.
Use your beak.
But so these are like all mature cones.
Yeah, so red spruce, to be just perfectly honest, is a little less complex to restore. It's a little more hardy, a little more deer resistant, and it doesn't have the pests that we find with fir. Fraser fir is a little more tricky to grow, and then we get the seedlings to grow, but when they get to be almost cone-bearing age, they get hit by the balsam woolly adelgid. So trying to figure out how to deal with that disease and also deer browse pressure and things like that, it's just a little trickier with fir. So spruce is sort of the gateway tree, and then move into fir hopefully soon. Yeah, some of the, not necessarily difficulties, but some of the tricky parts doing red spruce restoration, some of the things we look for are really specific elevations, it's really site specific. So it has certain sunlight requirements, certain water requirements, and we try to really be focused on what the physical environment looks like when we do a red spruce restoration. So here at SHC, we have a couple of different techniques that we've used for a red spruce restoration, and really it comes down to what's on the ground on the property that we want to restore. So first of all, we don't just willy-nilly restore red spruce. We're only going to restore red spruce in areas where it historically occurred. And then in those areas, if there's just absolutely no red spruce component, we can go in and plant red spruce seedlings. If there is a red spruce component, but they're in the understory, then we can do some really light touch forestry, so girdle the hardwoods around that spruce. It responds really well to sunlight, pops up to the canopy and starts producing cones and sort of starts a natural forest regeneration. And by far, that's one of the easiest ways to do it. And really, that just goes back to the history of how we lost red spruce. Was when red spruce was logged, hardwoods grew really quickly. They were really competitive. They outcompeted the spruce and shaded it. So you can have really old, mature red spruce that just sit under the canopy, just waiting for that little gap.
Yeah, I mean, compared to where we were last time, the amount of sunlight coming through this canopy compared to where we were before, these trees are going to have a much greater shot at reaching the canopy height.
Browsed out, so like deer do eat them. They hammered them on Hall Orchard. They're all like little baby stumps.
Yeah, here at least primarily it was logging, and then I think there were some subsequent fires that also sort of altered some of those ecosystems. There's some pests on red spruce that have, hit in different areas, but that hasn't been as big of a component for us here in the Southern Apps. Some of SASRI's goals and some of SHC's goals are definitely the same. And I think some of the cooler tools are actually computer-based. So creating GIS models of historically where did spruce occur, also taken into account that this is a really climate-sensitive species, and modeling, where could red spruce persist in 50 years or 100 years, so that then when we look at doing restoration, we can put it in an area that we hope is going to be really resilient to climate change, and provide habitat for those federally listed species, Carolina flying squirrel, all those rare birds like saw-whet owls, far into the future. So I think that's a cool thing, that use of technology for restoration. I also think one of the most compelling things about Sasri is it's region-wide. So I'm doing spruce restoration in the highlands of Roan, but there's a team doing spruce restoration in the Blacks, in the Balsams, in the Smokies, in West Virginia, in Virginia. So it's really one of the compelling things about that whole partnership is just the huge reach and the interest from all different groups across our region. So there's obviously, temperature is really important, but even more than that, I think cloud cover and rainfall are really important. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot is a sky island. So, these red spruce forests are really high elevation and they get a lot of cloud cover and a lot of rainfall. The ground cover is, bryophytes and mosses, and they're very boreal, habitats. And so rainfall is really important. And then also, acid deposition and just new pests and pathogens that are moving into our area because of temperature changes. So climate change effects on red spruce are just so varied and paramount to thinking about restoration in the future. Yeah, so days of cloud cover, amounts of rainfall, and not just amounts of rainfall, but when that rainfall occurs throughout the year is expected to change, because of climate change, and that's going to impact spruce forests really dramatically. Yeah, so the Roan Highlands are one of the most climate resilient places in North America. It's one of the most biodiverse places in North America. So I truthfully cannot imagine a place where conservation is more important.